Welcome to CyberMAYnia, cyber talks with the brightest minds in cybersecurity. Discussing risks, AI, emerging threats, workforce challenges, and more. Brought to you by Cyber Range Solutions. With your host, May Brooks.
Hello and welcome to another episode of CyberMAYnia. And with me today is the lovely and amazing James McQuiggan. How are you, James?
I'm doing well, May. Good to see you, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming.
Definitely.
So we always start the same way, with you introducing yourself, a little bit about who you are and what makes you tick.
Wow. Yeah, so my name is James McQuiggan, and I am a security awareness advocate at KnowBe4. So essentially going around and promoting cybersecurity thought leadership. And KnowBe4, we handle security awareness training, phishing simulations, and how to deal with all the aspects of social engineering. What makes me tick? Wow. I've been doing cybersecurity 20 years now. It feels like forever, I think. And I know a lot of people in this industry as well. They kind of feel the same way, that it's, time flies when you're having fun. And it's been an interesting ride so far from over. But I go all the way back to the 90s, where I came out of theater. I spent about 6 years working professionally in theater and opera in the technical aspects. I wasn't a singer. Don't ask me to sing. The thing that I've learned over the years is people pay me not to sing. So no, it's been more, I did more of the technical, the lighting, the sound. I stage managed, which is kind of the production manager, not the production manager, kind of overseeing the running of the show and everything, and thoroughly enjoyed that. But the theater lifestyle, while exciting and certainly enjoyable, wasn't the one that I wanted to have when it came to having a family and getting married and all that. And so I got back into computers. I worked in a help desk for several years. I think everybody should work in a help desk. And I say that because for a number of reasons. One, it improves your communication skills, because you've got to talk to people that don't know a lot about computers as much as you. And so you have to be able to pass that message along, but also helps improve your technical skills as well, because you're constantly learning. So did that for a number of years. And then I got hired at Siemens, where I worked there for about 18 years and did everything from database administration to programming to application support to networking to network security to cybersecurity. And that's where I got to meet our head of corporate security and our product security officer. And when we were doing an audit of our systems that we had within the group that I worked in, and they turned to me and said, you should get your CISSP. And I was like, my CISS what? So that once I earned that certification from then ISC2, that kind of changed my life and my career in a lot of good ways. And one of the reasons why nowadays I am very much involved with ISC2, as running a chapter, as being on the now just kind of returned for a short time period as the board of trustees for the Center for Cyber Safety and Education. And I'm on the North American Advisory Council as well. So do a lot with ISC2. I also teach at the local college here in Central Florida, Valencia College. I teach a cyber ops class as well. And of course, running the Central Florida ISC2 chapter. So along with that, between photography, travel, cocktails, that was my COVID curse, was decided during COVID, was like, all right, I'm going to make more cocktails, learn how to make cocktails, and had a lot of fun doing that. So
I did not know that. See?
Yep.
That I didn't know.
That was my COVID skill, was basically staying home. All right, if I can't go out and drink, then I'll just make drinks at home. And had a lot of fun just mixing it up and doing a lot of different cocktails. So that was fun. So yeah, a lot of different things. My family, that's the other big thing, is taking care of them. And I have 2 daughters in their early 20s. So one is off in the world making a career, and the other one is about to. So, yep.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
And yeah, you just discussed your very broad background, which was very technical for many years.
Yeah.
And somehow your journey led you to the awareness world, to know
Yeah.
before. Yeah, so how do you find it? And I had the same question from many people doing awareness, but you're a techie. Why do you do awareness? So why do you do awareness?
So, and that's interesting because during my time at Siemens, when I got into cybersecurity, one of the things that I got promoted into our corporate security office. And when I got brought into there, I was doing compliance. Because I was doing compliance already in the previous department within the business. There was what we called the NERC SIP compliance, which was cybersecurity for power plants, electricity transmission stations, so forth. And so I was doing a lot of compliance. And then when I got into corporate security office, one of the areas that we had that was a responsibility in our office was security awareness. We had an ambassador program, an information security advisor program is what it was called. And it was an opportunity to work with the business and helping educate the business in cybersecurity and people there. And I don't know what it was, but at the time, for me, it didn't seem like a passion. It just seemed like a lot of fun to do. So I took over running that ISA program and absolutely loved it. We would do monthly meetings. We did a big annual meeting every year. And a matter of coordinating that, I'd gotten very much engaged in Toastmasters at that time as well. So my confidence in public speaking, as well as leadership, as well as event planning kind of increased as well. And I had a lot of fun with that. At the end of about 6 years, there were several changes in leadership, and I had an opportunity to go do the NERC SIP again with our renewables division. And I went over to them. This was after doing the ISA program for about 6 years. Hardest thing I did was leaving that program, but the opportunity was too good. So I went over to our renewables division to oversee their NERC SIP compliance incident response. And I have to admit, now I've been gone from Siemens for about over 4 years now, and I can kind of safely say, but that first week, I was really depressed. I was like, what have I done? I've left something that I truly enjoyed and had a passion for. And that made me realize that I had a passion for it. And so spent the next 3 years looking for that, whatever that new job was going to be. And so, my time at Siemens was great. I learned a lot. I would not be where I am if it wasn't for Siemens. But making that transition, I realized I'd taken a wrong turn and wanted to get back to that education. And I started teaching at the college, but I wanted to get back teaching and educating and speaking publicly and presenting and that kind of thing. And that's when the opportunity at KnowBe4 came along. And when that came along, I pounced on it. I said, yep, this is what I want to do. And a lot of people over the years, as I've talked with about this role and what I was doing and where I was going, even people that I work with at Siemens, all have said, this is the best job for you. This is the perfect job for you. And it made me realize that, yeah, security awareness is a passion, educating people, helping people make smarter security decisions every day. Because everybody's running around with their smartphones. We're on email. This is the time of the year where everybody starts buying things and having deliveries. We watch a lot of entertainment online. We're doing so much online on the internet that we have to make sure that we're making those smart decisions. And so that's where my passion came from, and realized, and yeah, I haven't looked back. So
Amazing.
It's been great.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I can relate in so many different ways. We have we've done similar things, and I agree. I absolutely love talking to people about cybersecurity because people think it's a techie problem, but it's not. It's a cultural problem. I see a lot of parallels between security awareness and road safety. It's the same.
Yep.
I don't understand how a car operates. Honestly, I have no idea what makes my car drive, but I do know how to drive it
Operate it safely.
safely-ish.
Right.
So, in your experience, you've been doing awareness for a while, first at Siemens and now with KnowBe4. How do you see the concept and the acceptance of security awareness evolve over the years in different organizations?
Yeah, and I think, when we look at the history, that could be a fun course in itself. When we look at the history of security awareness, a lot of it was for compliance reasons. We did it because we had to. It's like, okay, people were like, no, security is, like you said, the technical aspect. No, it's only for the tech people. It's IT. We don't need to worry about it. And then we started seeing issues with phishing. And it went from being an IT thing to, oh, crap, you mean anybody could click on a link and the cyber criminals could connect into the organization? And now I go back to 2010, where we're looking at these phishing attacks going on. And I know they were going on before that, but looking at the phishing attacks back then, and a lot of it was, okay, just look for, basic text, look for misspelled words, look for where it's been addressed to a lot of people, either in your organization or with similar names, because they were pulling off email addresses or names or whatever that were, either the last name started with the same letter because they were doing them in bunches. And so we would say, look at zip files, look at, watch out for links. And that's now evolved over the years to where they start scraping web pages and have logos and have the emails look like the actual PayPal email or banking website or whatever it may be, to a point now where they're basically just trying to start build a rapport with you, start communicating with you, get you to respond, or have it be where it's a phone call, or there's a redirect. And so we talk about the URLs. We talk about be careful of emails where they're trying to straight up a conversation, but it's evolved. And so security awareness isn't so much now just compliance. It's not just an IT thing. It's an everybody thing. Anybody that has an email address within the organization has the electronic key to the front door and can let the cyber criminals come in. So they have to be educated. It's, you can't just hand somebody the car keys or a bicycle and go, here you go, off you go, have fun. No, they've got to be educated. And while people get, roll their eyes or groan when it's like, oh, it's that time of the year, we got to do security awareness training. That's what we got to get away from. We need it to be conducted frequently. This has got to be an every month thing, an every week thing, some element that's being either re-emphasized or discussed or presented to them so that it reinforces it, because you can't just go to the gym one day out of the year and expect that muscular tone fit body. No, people that go to the gym go 3 or 4 days a week because it's leg day, arm day, back day, cardio day. I don't go, I've got my keg of a gut. So, essentially, it has to be done frequently. And we got to get away from security awareness. We've got to get to a security culture. We need, when the 18 years I worked at Siemens, I visited a lot of power plants and I visited a lot of wind farms, and everyone I visited always had this health and safety culture. You go to a hospital, you go to a manufacturing facility, it's all about health and safety because we don't want people to get hurt. We don't want people to die. Completely understandable. However, the cybersecurity culture has to be there. Security culture has to be there because we don't want to be attacked by cyber criminals. We don't want to have our system shut down, be made unavailable where we can't do our work. And if we can't do our work, then we can't produce or provide a service, and then we go bankrupt and we're out of business. That, while it's not life and death, it's certainly life and health, where, you've got these things that can happen to an organization. And a lot of the time, board of directors or other people are thinking, or senior management are like, hey, it happens to all the other people. We're a small organization. We're not going to get attacked. And the problem is they're going to attack anybody they can get into and then figure out a way to be able to leverage that company. Because if you provide a service to larger organizations, that in the supply chain attack is great for them, because they go, good, now we can leverage you to gain access into a bigger organization. We can use you as a small fish to land a bigger fish. And sometimes that's not fully discovered until it's way too late. And then they go, oh no, now what do we do? And so it's a matter of having to get that culture in there sooner and get it in at the top. It's got to come from the board. It's got to come from senior management and work its way down. Because if the people sit there and go, well, the CEO's not using a password manager, then I'm not going to use one. Who cares? And so it has to come from the top. It has to be visibly shown and be transparent about it.
Absolutely. So you talked about coming from the top, and I completely agree. And I think that one of the challenges is exactly what you mentioned. Why would anyone be interested in me? I'm a small fish. So I always say that hackers find the path of least resistance, just like water.
Yep.
They'll hack you because you're an easier mark.
Yep.
That's it. There's no other reason. Now, the question is, with cybersecurity, we know that one of the things that really challenge us as security professionals is the fact that we can't do our job if not everyone has to be involved. And we're the only I think we're the only sort of people that need everyone's support to do their job. I mean, I've never had the CFO come up to me and tell me, "Can you go over their financial report?" No. Or build the financial report? No, I'm not part of that conversation. I will see this financial report when it's out, probably. I will have to secure the financial report, but I don't have to build it. But I need them to do my job for me, because otherwise I will fail. And the question is, do you have specific strategies that you use that you find that are specifically very effective in instilling that awareness, instilling that culture, especially for upper management?
Yeah. It's interesting when you talk about, I need them to do my job. And I think that's one of the misconceptions is it's not my job to make sure. My job is to educate you that you understand why you shouldn't be clicking on every single link that comes in your mailbox. It's your responsibility to make sure that you take the education and apply it within your daily job, because of your inbox, that key, that front door, that easy way cyber criminals come in. If you were working by a door into your office and somebody opened the door and walked in and they weren't wearing a badge, because everybody wears a badge in offices nowadays, and they weren't wearing a badge, would you just go, okay, it's all right, I'm going to let them walk through the office? Or would you either confront them, stop them, question them, call security? You would take certain actions to protect the organization. And that's what we're looking at doing here, especially when it comes to, as we try to get them to do our job, but we get them to do their job. Part of their job is to be aware of their surroundings, situational awareness, being aware of what's going on in their email, being aware of what's going on physically in the office. Now, they may get to work from home remotely, and that's kind of a nice thing. So it's even more so, and even more responsibility put on the person, that you really have to guard that entrance of where the cyber criminals are coming in. Now, for me, one of the biggest things that we talk about at KnowBe4, and one of the things that I believe in for a number of years, was always about leading with the carrot and not beating them with a stick. But then again, one of my favorite sayings is, the beatings will continue until morale improves, right? But no, it's a matter of, when people get rewarded and recognized, that releases those endorphins, right? The things in the brain that makes you happy. It's like, oh, I got recognized. I got a sticker. I got a mug, and so a lot of the times when people would, stop people from walking in and escort them to the security desk to get a badge, or, did really well in, helping their department get their education, or having clean workstations, because we used to do workstation checks back in the day. And so people would I find that if you reward people, that goes a long way. The kicker is if they start expecting it, then you start running into an issue, and it's a matter of having to reset that whole parameter, that aspect of it overall. But for me, one of the biggest strategies is leading with the carrot, recognizing people. And that was one of the things I did with the ISA program, is we did a big annual meeting. And at that annual meeting, there'd always be swag given out. One year it was gym bags with the Siemens logo on it, coffee mugs, and just other fun swag stuff, and the annual meeting. And then we would take the annual meeting and do it offsite. And the cool thing was, the offsite meeting back in the day when I was running the program is when Siemens was a sponsor for the Walt Disney World Company, and specifically Epcot. And specifically, the big golf ball at Epcot, the Spaceship Earth, was sponsored by Siemens. And we had an office space behind the golf ball, behind that Spaceship Earth. And we were able to use that space free of charge. And so every year I would rent that space, and I would bus all the ISAs. Now, we had ISAs all over the country, and I would tell them way in advance, and if they could coordinate it and be down in Orlando for other meetings, then they could come to it. So we would do this ISA annual event meeting inside the Spaceship Earth in our little meeting area that we had set up. Bring in the FBI, bring in special guests, our head of corporate security, other people from head of their other upper management from Siemens, other guest speakers that I could get and that I'd met and knew, and give out swag, have lunch. And then we'd be done around 4:30 and the annual meeting. Well, the park would be open until 9 o'clock. and there's no point in going home if the park's still open for 5 more hours. So we let everybody go into the park. So for them, they had an amazing day. They really enjoyed it, and they got a lot out of it, out of the education. Then they got the fun aspect of it. And so it made them really enjoy being an ISA, that they would then pass along that enjoyment, or hopefully pass along the messages and everything else that we had within the ISA program and everything else. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a blast doing that. It was always a lot of fun just to kind of see them all excited about it, but then also get them to continue to drive the message within their departments, locations, whatever.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And you mentioned a lot of things that I'm sure that you're using in the chapter as well. And it's all about looking at the resources you have. For example, you mentioned swag, and I ran quite a few awareness programs myself. And one of the things that always works is just stickers.
Oh yeah.
They cost basically nothing.
Right.
And people absolutely love getting them, and they put them on their laptops, and they're so happy with them. And that's like whenever someone tells me, no, it's a matter of budget and everything, come on, it's like $2 per whatever. It's nothing. Use
Right.
it, do it. It's nothing. And it creates that sort of, ooh, I got something out of it. So I completely agree. And make it fun. Ooh, nice. I
So
don't have these. Why do I have these? I want to have these.
These are all my stickers for my work laptop. And essentially it's on a plastic film,
Yeah, I see that.
so then I can just lay it over my laptop and I don't have to ruin the machine. So that way then afterward, when it comes time to trade in the laptop, I just, swap out the plastic and put it on a new laptop if it's the same. So,
but the best part is getting new stickers for your new laptop.
And then everybody's like, "Ooh, where'd you get that sticker? Where'd you get that one?" One of my new favorite stickers comes from a good friend of mine, Patrick Miller, and he said, "Assume she is technical and capable of breathing fire." So love that one.
Not bad. Absolutely nice. Well, you mentioned now about being security aware, about looking at your environment, about all these things. And I think there's always a balance that we're trying to achieve between the technical elements, the technical aspects of cybersecurity, and the behavioral challenges that we need to, the mindset that we need to acquire.
Right.
How do you see organization balance that?
Yeah, it's a fine line. I mean, it is a balancing act that a lot of them have to do, because like I said, you're dealing with human nature. You're dealing with people that are going, oh, cybersecurity, it's not my problem. That's IT's problem. And so it's a matter of getting them engaged, getting them involved, and getting them to understand what the risks are, explain why it's important to them to get their buy-in. Because when it comes to security culture, we look at it from a variety of different dimensions. We look at it from their attitudes. Their over-encompassing thing is their behaviors, but we look at it from their attitudes. We look at it from the norms, what's going on within their environment, within their society of the work environment. We're looking at it from their attitudes, their norms, their behaviors, how they're accepting of it. And a lot of the time, it's a matter of, because of it, we're dealing with human nature. If we don't have their buy-in, if we don't have them understanding, there's going to be pushback. There's going to be resistance. Because I know in my years, running a phishing program, I would have people, when I ran it at Siemens, they would call me up on the phone going, "How dare you make me take this training program? It takes me away from my work." And I would always ask, "How'd you get the number? How'd you get that it was me?" "Oh, I called tech support and they told me." I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
But, and I'd have those conversations a lot of the time, and I would go, "Look, you're right. It does take away from the work, because now you have to do the refresher training because you clicked on a link. If that had been a cyber criminal, now they got into the system. Well, so what? They got into my computer and they got my email. Do you not have confidential information in your email?" "No, I don't. I delete it all." They'd always have excuses. And
it never works.
But a lot of it is, once the cyber criminal gets in on your system, they're going to do stuff in there that you won't get to see. You won't know. And while I'm taking away from you, I'm taking 10 minutes away or 15 minutes away from your productivity, because now you got to do refresher training. that is because, we need you to understand how important you are as a user with an email address to the organization, because you can let those cyber criminals in, and we don't want that to happen. Now, cybersecurity, and May, it's all about reducing risk. Are we ever going to get it to the point where, we're 100% protected because everybody's trained? No. We want to reduce that risk. We want to make it so that it's 1 in 25 people, 1 in 50 people, 1 in 100 people that might fall for that phishing link, not 1 in every 3 or 1 in every 5, because that's usually the statistics that we do see, where there's no training or very little training, that it's 1 in every 3, 1 in 6, 1 in 10 on a, for the really good ones. But, that's a lot of doors that are opening up for that organization where cyber criminals can come in. And so it is a balance. It's a matter of getting their buy-in. It's a matter of getting them to understand and accepting that risk as well with the rest of us. We're going to take care of it from a technical standpoint. If a cyber criminal gets in on the network, we're going to be monitoring. We're going to take your machine. We're going to wipe it clean now that, you've clicked on that link, because we don't know if the cyber criminals got in, if they dropped anything on there that may not be detectable. So we're going to take the most cautious approach and, wipe your machine. If they got in, then we're going to be monitoring the network, and we're going to have other tools. And there's technology and things that can be installed, agents that we know that's out there that can help us with that, because it's tools, technology, and people helping protect the organization overall. And so, you leveraging those and those processes, goes a long way. But it's that fine balance, get their buy-in, utilizing the tools and the technology.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you mentioned a lot of education. You talked about education, and I want to go back to that. We'll start with that. Yeah, we'll start with education, because you mentioned that you teach in the local college in Valencia College at Central Florida. And I know that you're also leading, and we'll talk about the chapter in a second, that you're leading the ISC2 chapter in Florida. I want to ask you about your experience as an instructor, as a teacher. How do you get young kids involved? How do you get them involved, not just in cybersecurity, but in the industry as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of two parts of that. Right now, here in the US, teaching at the college level, the students that are in these programs are people, not a lot of them are the young people, I'll say, the 25s and unders. A lot of the people here in my classes are people, it's starting to shift a little bit now, but up until this semester, a lot of the students that I had were people that were post-military, coming in out of the military, looking for work, had heard about cybersecurity. Hey, cybersecurity is the place to be, got 3.5 million jobs coming to, come and work for us. The other ones are second career people that have, and especially after COVID, where, they lost their job during COVID, or, coming out of retail, coming out of hospitality, whatever it may be, and looking to get into another career, and heard about cybersecurity. And the great thing about cybersecurity is you touched upon at the beginning, May, is the fact that you don't have to be technical. It seems very technical, but there's a lot of things that don't require you to know the technology. You don't have to know firewalls or networking or routing switches, firewalls, that kind of stuff. No, you could come in and be somebody that understands compliance. You could be somebody that understands, governance, risk, and compliance, GRC aspects. You could be somebody that understands data analysts, data scientists. You could be somebody coming in that loves to work with people, has great communication skills or marketing skills. Those make awesome security awareness program managers, bringing those people in. So bringing all those people in together, right now is kind of where we are. Now, looking at that next generation, one of the things that I see a lot of people struggle with, and there's always a big discussion of, is entry-level positions. We don't have a lot of them. And that's what's missing in this industry, is we have organizations that want that unicorn. They want they want somebody that's got 5 years experience, a CISSP, and then they're going to pay them 50 grand. No. You ask
it doesn't
somebody,
work that way.
Yeah, exactly. You get somebody with a CC, certified in cybersecurity, which is the ISC2 one. CompTIA's got their entry-level ones, and you start bringing on those entry-level. We need to have more entry-level positions, and we need to either start creating them or start putting out there what those entry-level positions need to look like,
And I think in that aspect, we also have a challenge because I completely agree. But I see that a lot of the entry level positions that we had, which weren't a lot to begin with, are being taken away by AI tools. And I'm not
Yep.
blaming AI, but
Yep.
to
No.
be honest,
Yep.
I won't, hopefully in a couple of years, I won't need tier one SOC analysts.
Right.
But then how will I get an incident response person if he's never done SOC analyst? So it's a huge challenge. And I want to ask you, based on that experience that you have, what sort of advice would you give someone starting out in this industry or looking to enter or just starting out in this industry? What sort of advice would you give them?
The first thing is always networking. Get engaged in your community, get engaged in, if you've got different chapter programs, and whether it's ISC2, whether it's ISSA, ISACA, meetups, OWASP, whatever it may be. Find it could even be a cyber club at your university or college, and get engaged with them. Bring in guest speakers, if you're at a college or a university, bring in guest speakers so that way you can get connected. But you certainly want to network. You want to be able to branch out. You can't just be living in your bubble. Study, find out what it is that, that you really enjoy. What is it that's your passion? For me, it took a number of years to figure that out. And you may never, it may not be something that presents right away, but go through and figure out what it is that you're really passionate about. Are you very much into the technical aspects? And okay, then networking and routing and all that stuff might, interest you. Network security. Is it compliance? Is it data analyst? And if you're, when you're looking at those tier one jobs, and yes, those might go away because you've got AI, because AI is doing that repetition or automation for you. Then it's a matter of making sure you understand that so that you can verify and trust. How do you do incident response? Well, maybe we need to build up our cyber ranges to have an incident response where, this has happened. What do you got to do to fix it? What report do you have to write? What analysis do you need to do? And be able to go through and do it that way. But I think our cyber ranges are a fantastic way to be able to help educate and get hands-on applicability for our entry level, our newcomers to this industry, so that the way they can try it. You think about for police officers where they use sidearms or weapons, they can go to a gun range and be able to practice and try that out. That's what we want to do with our cyber ranges. We want a place where students can go, people can go and try stuff out. One of the things for me that I always like to tell my students is, and it's one of the things we do in the course, is build yourself a virtual lab. If you like doing the networking aspect and the pen testing and the technical aspects, then build yourself a lab and start testing in there and attacking machines. And there's tons of different ones out there, whether web application or, network attacks, those kind of things. But build yourself up a cyber range at your own home, in your own environment. And it can be done relatively cheaply. There's tons of YouTube videos out there that you can go out and get. If you're into coding, if you're a programmer, if you're doing that, then have a GitHub. So that way you've got a portfolio, so to speak, of stuff that you've done, coding examples and that kind of stuff. So that way people can see when you go in for that interview, when you're trying to get trying to get into the interview is tricky, but when you do, you want to have more than just your resume and a cover letter they've seen. You want to have that portfolio. What is it that makes you unique? What makes you stand out from other people for that position that you're going in for? Networking goes a long way, because then you've got somebody that can make that referral, get you past that HR gate that's giving you the problems, because you've sent out 100 resumes and nobody's ever called you back, because you don't know anybody. And so a lot of the times it helps to know someone that you can find out. One of my favorite stories with my students was last year. We did a Central Florida cybersecurity summit at the local university. A friend of mine was running it, and I told all my students, come along. This is practically free for you to come along. It's a full day of education. You can network with other professionals in the community. Here are some great presentations. And I had one student show up, and her name was Hannah. And because I do online teaching, I don't get to really meet my students. Well, I finally got to meet one, and Hannah came up and we're having a great conversation. And I said, so what is it you want to do? What are you interested? She goes, right now, I'm just trying to get an internship doing something in cybersecurity. I said, cool, that's great. And I said, well, this is the place to be. Get a chance. Make sure you get a chance today to chat with some folks. A little bit later on, I'm chatting around with some of the other folks in the community, and a good friend of mine, Tom, comes up, and we're chatting, and he works at a local healthcare organization, and he's oversees all their auditing. And I'm chatting with him, and I'm like, so what do you got going on? What's new? And he goes, I'm looking for interns. And I'm like, really?
Ding, ding.
I said, stay right here. And I ran over and I found Hannah, and I said, I need you to come with me. And of course, she gets this worried look of like, oh my gosh, what's happening? So she comes over, and so Tom, meet Hannah. Hannah, meet Tom. Hannah's looking for an internship. Tom's looking for interns. I'm going to let you two take it from here. And at the end of the day, I ran into Tom. I said, how'd it go? And he goes, oh, we're going to have a phone conversation, go in a little more depth next week. I said, cool, great. Well, I ran into Tom a couple months ago. And I said, hey, how's it going? What's up? And he goes, oh, yeah, cute, small talk and so forth. I said, hey, whatever happened with Hannah? He looked at me in the eye and he goes, she just got hired. She started last week as a full-time employee.
Oh, I love that. And I think everything is just said is so applicable for people starting out for sure, but people in all stages of their career. A lot of people tell me they're already in and they've had the same job for a few years, or maybe they had a couple of positions, and they tell me, I don't know how to get to the next job. How is it? How do you always find those incredible opportunities? I'm out there. And I want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the chapter that you've been running. You've been running it for over 10 years now.
7 years. 7 years. Yeah.
No. Well, yeah, the chapter has been 10 years.
I had another chapter. The chapter's been around for 10 years. I've been chapter president for the last 7. Yeah.
Which is incredible. So tell us a little bit about what it is to run as, well, first of all, what does it mean to have an ISC2 chapter?
Yeah. I ran the ISSA Central Florida Chapter for about 2.5, 3 years prior to that. And when the opportunity came along where they were looking for another president for Central Florida ISC2 or ISC squared, I decided to run it because I was getting very much engaged and involved with ISC squared, ISC2 back then. And so it was like, it was going to help if I was running an ISC2 chapter. I said, all right. So I became the chapter president, and in the membership database, there were 17 active members and $62 in the bank account. And when you volunteering your time, your talent, and maybe your treasure, it's a testament of your passion and what you want to be able to do. And volunteering for me has always been a big thing. It's been of who I am all my life. And, being able to give back to the community. And so it was a matter of leveraging my connections, people that I knew, bring in guest speakers, and then starting to build up the chapter. And as I started to build up the chapter, I started having people coming to me going, hey, I'd like to volunteer. I'd like to help out. So, brought in a new membership person who became my vice president, got a secretary who did it for about a year. But then I had another secretary come on who's been with me for the last 6 years. Has been amazing. And so you start to develop that group of people around you that have that same passion as you. And I had a conversation the other day with one of the officers about the fact that, how do you go find people that have that passion? And it's tricky because it's a volunteer role. And so you've got to, demonstrate, you've got to be able to show that passion out there, and people see it and go, I want to do that. I want to be a part of that. And so that then they come forward, and then you bring them into that circle and you get them engaged and involved. And so for me now, 7 years later, coming up into my 8th year, a lot of it is, being able to give back to the community, helping support your membership. So for me, I look at it as I'm there to support the board. The board is to support the membership. And, overall, help the board get whatever it is they need to be able to do their job, whether it's for membership, whether it's for events, whether it's for training, education, finances, whatever it may be. And so, I kind of look at it as the CEO of the chapter, and, looking at strategy and looking at how we grow, what do we need to do, those kind of things. And, we're now over 250 members. We've got lots of money in the bank that we're able to do, dinners for every one of our meetings. So we do a meeting the fourth Monday of every month, and we bring in a caterer, and they provide like a 3-course meal, salad, a main course, and a dessert. We have drinks. So they're coming in on a Monday night after being in the office or working all day. I want them fed. I don't want to be just giving them pizza and subs or fried chicken or whatever. It's like, no, this needs to be a proper meal so that you get something out of it. And then also you get that education aspect. And that's one of the things I like about the ISC2 chapter program is it's all about connect, educate, inspire, and secure. Those 4 pillars is what goes in with regards to the chapter. And it's a lot about, supporting the community, helping out those security, because the professionals that come in attendance, they are looking for their CPEs, plain and simple.
Yeah.
But I want to give them much more than that. I want to give them that networking opportunities, building up collaboration with other people in the community, and kind of build us all up as an awesome community. Our ISC2 chapter is, I want them to feel this is the best thing in Central Florida. So.
Amazing. I absolutely love that. Before we wrap this up, I know that a lot of people do think about, time flies when we're having fun. So I know that a lot of people think about volunteering and they always think, no, I have my job, I have my life, I have my family. So from your experience, and you've been volunteering for many years and you're also teaching and you have your full-time job, which is a full-time job, sure. How do you manage that balance between your professional commitments and your dedication to serving the community and the education community?
Yeah, balancing it is tricky. And a lot of what it comes down to for me and what I've learned myself over the years is compartmentalizing it. When I'm working, I have to focus on what I'm doing for KnowBe4, whether I'm doing presentations or whether I'm working on a blog or I'm making a video, whatever it may be. I have to focus on that time. And then usually it's a matter of, okay, I get to 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the evening. I've got the chapter meeting. Okay. Then it's like, okay, usually I am an early riser. Early bird gets the worm. Usually early in the morning, I'm up. That's when I'm doing, some of the chapter stuff. And whether it's a half an hour a day or an hour a day or a couple hours a week, it's usually during the quiet time for me. So the teaching is a set time. I do that every Wednesday night. So my Wednesday nights between 6 and 8 are dedicated to the teaching. I usually give myself an hour before that for grading or taking care of other stuff, prepping. I might do some prep on the weekends, again, up early before the family's up. I might do stuff early in the morning on Saturday and Sunday. But then when the family's up, then it's family time and doing that. So for me, it's just a matter of giving up the day, finding when specific times that I'm going to do that. And, and if something comes up where, oh my gosh, I've got to take care of some chapter stuff, then it's just a matter of like anything else. It's prioritizing, what are some of the crucial items, can this wait half an hour or an hour? No, it has to be done now. Okay, fine. And if it can be put off and wait a few hours, then that's what happens. So.
Love that. I love that. I've been volunteering myself for many years, and I agree. It's just a matter of setting the time. I think for people listening, yes, it is possible. We all have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Last but not least, pop quiz. Very quick questions. You answer whatever comes to mind. No right or wrong answers.
Okay.
So let's start with something nice. You know what? What's the last book you read that had nothing to do with cybersecurity, but enriched you on a personal level?
Last book I read. Ouch. It's funny because I read more articles than I do books these days. I should read more books. My wife, she just told me she's just finished her 50th book of the year. I'm like, holy cow.
Wow.
What's the list? I'm trying to look over at my bookshelf to see what I've got. Wow. And over there they're all my tech books and everything else. Shucks, I don't know. Like I said, I do a lot more reading of articles and online stuff than I do actual books.
So my solution for books
now, the one I'm reading right now is called The Great Reboot. While it's somewhat technical, it's dealing with how to talk with board members and putting technology in the boardroom. So
amazing. I love that. So I find my best way of reading books, at least when I was commuting a lot, was audiobooks.
Yeah.
I love audiobooks. Yeah. Amazing. What's the best piece of advice you ever received throughout your career?
through my career.
Mm-hmm.
Best piece of advice throughout my career. Well, it's probably going to be three pieces, and it's a mantra that I've had since starting at Siemens many years ago. And it came from a manager of mine. His name was Jeff Dunlap. And it was situational awareness. So be aware of what's going on around you. Discipline to process. So always stick with the procedure, rules, and life. Situational discipline, attention to detail. And those three things have kind of been with me through KnowBe4. It's always, do it fast, do it right the first time, and have fun while you do it. That's kind of gone along all the way with me. And then, of course, networking. Network. Get connected with your community.
Amazing. And last but not least, if you could send a message now to the cybersecurity community 10 years from now, what would that message be? Words of wisdom.
Be kind to the AI overlords.
I already mentioned that they're stealing our jobs. Now we have to be nice to the overlords. I don't want to be nice to them.
No, I think, 10 years from now, a message is, I hope we figured out ransomware. I hope, we've got people that are more, security aware. We've got a stronger security culture. Good, but I have a feeling it's going to kind of stay this status quo for a number of years. So we'll see.
Yeah, I have a feeling you're right. James, thank you so much for joining me today. It was an absolute pleasure having you here. And I hope you all join us on the next episode of CyberMAYnia.